Will Imran Khan return to the top job? The former prime minister wins big in Pakistan's most populous province. His rivals reject calls for an early general election, but with pressure mounting, will they be forced to go to the polls sooner than planned? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's newsmaker is the PTI's victory in Punjab. Imran Khan is a Pakistani political heavyweight. Less than 4 months ago, he was ousted in a vote of no confidence, but the former prime minister's presence in the country is impossible to ignore. Despite his ouster, Khan still draws massive crowds of supporters in an ongoing effort to return to power. And his party's key election victory in the Punjab province on Sunday could prove the catalyst for his revival. While only 20 of the province's 371 seats were up for grabs, the vote was still hugely important for Pakistan's two biggest political parties. And it was Khan's PTI that came out on top, winning 15 seats. Shehbaz Sharif's PMLN picked up 4, while 1 went to an independent candidate. Within hours of his win, Imran Khan was once again calling for early national elections.
The only way forward from here is to hold fair and free elections under a credible election commission of Pakistan. Any other path will only lead to a greater political uncertainty and further economic chaos.
Well, the loss is no doubt a huge blow to Shehbaz Sharif and the PMLN. For many, this vote was a test of his leadership, especially with the country in the midst of an economic crisis. Inflation is at a record 14-year high, and the currency is in free fall. The Pakistani rupee dropped to a new low this week, trading at 225 to the dollar. When Imran Khan was removed from office in April, it was closer to 180. The finance minister says the decline is due to political turmoil, and he's convinced once the situation settles, so too will the currency. Khan, however, blames the country's economic woes specifically on his ouster. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has been forced into radical measures to stabilize the economy. He made the controversial decision to cut government subsidies and raise electricity rates. And now, with food and fuel prices soaring, many inside the country are struggling to get by.
Yes, of course the prices are high. Inflation is very high. This government increased the prices. There were no high prices in Imran Khan's government. Prices were normal. I'll never accept this government, but we will bring Imran Khan back again at any cost. We don't want this government. Absolutely not.
So the PMLN is under immense pressure, and Imran Khan is pushing hard for an early general election. But Shahid Haqqan Abbasi, a former prime minister himself and senior member of Shehbaz Sharif's party, says the by-election result has no bearing on when a national vote should take place. He also promised his government will not hold early elections.
On that day, it was decided that we'll complete our term till August 17th, and then elections will be held on time. Snap elections are not a solution to anything today. In Pakistan, the constitution does not have snap elections. It takes 90 days for the elections.
So is the Punjab vote indicative of national sentiment or not? It does hold about half of Pakistan's entire population, and it's rare for a party to win a national election without success in the province. So joining me now to debate the state of Pakistani politics from Lahore is Fawad Chaudhry. He is Pakistan's former Minister of Information and Broadcasting and a senior member of Imran Khan's PTI party. From Islamabad is Saad Muhammad, a security analyst and retired Pakistan Army Brigadier. And in Karachi is Huma Baqai, a political analyst and professor of social sciences at the Millennium Institute of Technology and Entrepreneurship. Thanks all so much for being with us. Fawad Chaudhry, let me start with you. Imran Khan has insisted that he is the choice of the people, and Shehbaz Sharif is the choice of a parliament that he thinks is controlled by foreign influence as well as the military. So do you see this Punjab election victory as proving Imran Khan's case?
Absolutely. There's no other conclusion possible, but that yes, people have spoken for Imran Khan. They have accepted the narrative of Imran Khan, and the way these elections are conducted, in an atmosphere which is not conducive for our party. Despite that, hundreds of thousands of people turned up in the public processions, but in Imran Khan's campaign, and the results are absolutely. Uh, the people have given their verdict in favor of Imran Khan's stance.
Okay, Huma, let me ask you if you think the PTI is overplaying the real meaning of this victory. How much do you think this victory should actually empower Imran Khan and the PTI?
I think it's empowered Imran Khan tremendously. He carried on a fascinating mobilization campaign, and I think the campaign paid off. To a point, I think the PTI itself was also surprised by its success. Initially, they had said they were going to win 7 to 8 seats. So I think winning 15 seats was something even PTI was not expecting. And of course, it completely took the 9-party coalition by surprise.
Sorry, Huma, I have to interject.
Yes.
No one in PTI ever said that we are going to win 7 or 8 seats. We always said we were going to win 50.
Minister, what I wanted to say was that I think this particular victory, towards the end, I understand that you people were far more confident, but I think the victory that you achieved was more than what you expected. Let's put it this way. The mobilization has been tremendous. Even general elections have not seen a turnout of something which is close to 60%. And that was the turnout. I think that also went into the favor of PTI because the new voter, which is young, came out and voted for PTI. But essentially my worry is that it's not that PTI has consolidated itself as a very important political player in the polity of Pakistan. What is a source of worry is that how this is not bringing stability to Pakistan, how the blame game has not stopped, how the political polarization has not stopped, or perhaps it will only increase. And the free fall of the economy is a huge source of worry whoever watches the situation in Pakistan. What has happened to the stock exchange and to the value of the rupee in the last 3 days it's almost like the rupee went under a massacre. And I think that is something that should be addressed. You see, political wrangling is great. Political elections are great. It's democracy, but at the end of the day, it should work for the state. My concern is that if whatever that is happening in the country today, is it working for Pakistan or not? And are our politicians conscious of this fact that this confrontation is actually bringing the state down?
Okay.
That is my concern.
Fair enough. I want to get Saad Muhammad into this conversation now because there are those who actually say this victory symbolizes even more than just empowering the PTI, that it actually means, a loss really of military influence over the electorate. I'd like to know how you see that. Do you see any real indication for where the military now stands with the Pakistani people because of the Punjab election?
This post no confidence motion. Before that, if you had asked me, Imran Khan was going down and he had lost a lot of by-elections, especially in the province of Punjab. But after his ouster in the no confidence motion, I think he built up his narrative very well. He knew what the Pakistani people want to hear, especially in the two provinces, that is Punjab and Pakhtunkhwa. Where the people are politically more active and they are more participatory in the national politics. So he built it around the narrative of real sovereignty because he thought that previously the Pakistani rulers had been subservient to the United States and they had been listening more to the United States than to the own interests of Pakistan. He also built it on the corruption, narrative that most of these ex-rulers have been thoroughly corrupt and they have stashed away billions of dollars abroad. And the third was that for the first time, the people saw a leader who could stand up to the establishment. He didn't show any appeasement. He put the establishment under huge pressure. And I think the people bought this narrative. And it was a very convincing victory by the PTI. I'm also, glad at one thing that...
You say he put the establishment under tremendous pressure, but what specifically about the military?
You know, the military is the actual establishment, the deep state, and
The terms are
they have
used
been having a role.
synonymously in Pakistan.
Sorry, Huma, we couldn't hear you.
So-
Quickly repeat what you said.
I said the terms are used synonymously in Pakistan. When you want to be polite about the role of the military, you say it's the establishment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you are you indeed referring to the military when you say the establishment?
I'll call it the deep state. Okay. So the deep state has had a very pronounced role in the politics of Pakistan. At least that's the perception. The roles may have been more, it may have been less, but the perception is that without their consent, and Mr. Imran Khan has also been saying this all along. If you look at his in the last 22 years, what he has been saying is that you cannot come into power if you are not on the right side of the deep state. Now, whether this victory of his is a real defeat of the deep state, I don't think so. There could be temporary setbacks, but if he thinks that the role of the deep state is going to finish in Pakistan in the near future, I don't think so it's going to happen that way. There will be a role played by the military, whatever you call the deep state or the establishment. They will have a role to play because they feel that, they are the guardians of the interests of Pakistan. And anything that goes against the interests of Pakistan.
Huma, go ahead quickly.
My question to you, sir, is that will it cause a change of heart within the establishment, seeing the kind of political support Imran Khan has been able to garner for himself? The support on the street, the sentiment on the street may cause a change of heart in the deep state. Do you see that happening?
Over the past couple of years, I've seen the unprecedented, ability of the political leaders, whether it was Nawaz Sharif and his daughter Mariam, or whether it's Imran Khan now. They have been saying things which previously were not possible to have been said and go unpunished. So this time there is a retreat. And I think I look at this that, if one says that, the military there'll be a sudden snap and they will not interfere. They will interfere, but it's going to be gradually the military establishment is going to withdraw. It will be a withdrawal. How many years does it take to complete withdraw? That time will tell. I cannot predict it now. But at least there'll now be a diminished role.
Fawad Chaudhry, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but Huma, I just need to clarify with you because it can be confusing for viewers outside of Pakistan. We are under the impression that the establishment means more political entities, including even, the ISI and other players. Are we to understand that you're saying the deep state is the establishment, is the military?
Largely, yes.
Okay.
Other components also play a part, but largely it's the military. That's how establishment is perceived in Pakistan. A polite way of referring to them is saying it's the establishment.
Okay, interesting to have clarity on that. Let me move on to Fawad, and we need to move on to another area in all of this. And I have to ask you, why didn't Imran Khan and his supporters deliver on that ultimatum that they said to either hold an election in June or face more massive street protests? And I have to specify, is it because Imran Khan and the PTI doesn't exactly want to have to take charge of the economy right now and the shambles that it's in and the difficult reforms that are going to have to be made? Go ahead.
Well, frankly, economy was just doing fine. We were growing at the growth rate of 6%. We created 5.5 million jobs in 3.5 years. Large-scale manufacturing was at the biggest numbers in the history of Pakistan. Construction was doing really well. But this political instability caused the economic turmoil. It's not the otherwise. It's not that economic turmoil created a political instability. It's the political instability that created economic turmoil. So yes, we believe that with political stability, we will fix our economy.
Right. We
Shouldn't be a
explained
problem.
that at the top of the show. The question I was asking, perhaps you couldn't hear me clearly, is why Imran Khan and his supporters have not delivered on the ultimatum to hold the election in June. That they had said you either call an election within 6 days or we're coming back out onto the streets. That didn't happen. So why are they not pushing for elections right now as forcefully as they had back in May?
Well, yes, let me tell you. Yeah, people in India took inspiration in 1919 by the Caliphate movement, and we started our freedom movement here. Another incident in Turkey where the people stood up against army has inspired people in Pakistan to stand up for their rights against establishment, as Huma Baqai has just explained to you. So, but our problem is we don't want this process to be violent. We don't want the process of empowerment of people should go through from the blood from the rivers of the blood. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to achieve our purpose without any bloodshed, without violence. So that's why we opted to take a step back and contest elections, and opt to go into the courts against the unconstitutional acts of present government.
Okay. Huma, I want to get your opinion on that. Why do you think the PTI and Imran Khan have stepped back from their very forceful movement to try and force elections? Particularly, they wanted to see them in the month of June, and now they seem a lot more patient in their willingness to wait for a general election to be called.
Apart from what Fawad Chaudhry Saab has said, another issue is that holding elections have certain technical glitches also, which needed to be addressed. So this demand was more of a political rhetoric, which could not have been translated on the ground. But I would agree on Fawad Chaudhry Saab on the point that the economy was actually not in this situation when they were in power. And in fact, one of their pitch during this elections was that we were doing fine and we had warned people who wanted to dislodge us that this is going to create an economic chaos. And that's exactly what happened. More so, I think, looking in retrospect, the strategy that PTI has adopted now is far more effective. It has allowed them to not be responsible for anything in the state, blame the sitting government for all that is going wrong. So overnight, Imran Khan is not responsible for anything, and his rhetoric or his pitch or his narrative has a lot of bias. So politically speaking, this thing by default or design has made Imran Khan and PTI, it has pushed them in a position of power, and they're enjoying it and pushing it further, because their next target now is by-elections in Sindh. And if they are able to achieve anything which is close to what they achieved in Punjab, in Sindh, this is going to be so self-validating for them that it will establish PTI as an independent political player in Pakistan's politics. Because for now, up till now, they were being seen as a political party that was supported by the establishment. Even their acquisition of power was seen as something that happened because of that support, and they had earned the title of being selected. However, the selected title is completely destroyed by the imported title, and I think that is where the battle of narrative lies. Right now, I think PTI is politically strong. They should continue to play on this pitch, and this will allow them to establish themselves as a very critical, important political player.
They should wait patiently then until 2023 for a general election.
I don't know until 2023, but perhaps not push for agitation on the street. This particular strategy is paid off better.
Okay. Very quickly, Huma, I need to ask you about something you said earlier, because you said what scares you is that there may be an intervention that will derail democracy sometime in the near future. What do you mean by that?
Well, essentially, Pakistan has the history of democratic derailment. Smooth transitions is a very recent phenomena. The economic chaos And the meltdown that Pakistan is experiencing right now is a threat to the state of Pakistan. So an intervention will become inevitable if this is not set right. Because Shehbaz Sharif's government, in its first 100 days, Pakistan has never seen the economy in the state that it is right now. And we are still struggling with all the friendly countries to get a certain kind of bailout. So my worry and concern is that this political polarization, which continues to deepen, may derail democracy itself.
Saad Muhammad, does such an intervention or the scenario that Huma was describing scare you as well? The prospect thereof?
No, I don't think so. At this point in time, the military would mount a coup and take power directly. Indirectly, power, they have been using their power to influence governments or influence the elections. That they have been doing. But direct intervention, I think chances are very slim. I cannot rule it out completely, but I see the chances are very slim because it has its implications. And the implications are that, Pakistan is not the Pakistan of, what it was in the 1990s when President Musharraf came. The people are, more aware of their political rights. The international community is not going to accept military takeover in Pakistan. So I don't see that. Mr. Imran Khan and all the political parties, I think they have one common denominator, and that is that they are not going to allow the military to take over. So the military knows that there will be more political instability if they move in directly.
Okay, Fawad Chaudhry, your opponents are then in power for the time being. So tell us what you can about what the PTI has planned politically, strategically, for the coming months while the economy is struggling the way it is.
Well, you see, the government of Shehbaz Sharif is now on ventilators, and we hold the switch. We can turn it, we can keep them, we can keep the switch for some time, and we will turn it off whenever we like. They are primarily at this moment is serving at our mercy, frankly, and I believe that right now what we are trying to do is we're trying to give the present government a chance where they go for general elections themselves instead of we forcing the elections. We want the present ruling PDM to announce elections. So this is the only thing that let's see how long we can wait. We at 3-4 weeks or maybe. But the problem is that as Huma detailed, Pakistan's economy is going down and down, and despite our announcement of IMF staff level agreement, dollar is not stabilized. Dollar rupee parity is not stabilized. So the problem is that we have to fix economy as soon as possible, and for that we believe that political stability is important, and political stability can come through only elections.
Okay, but I mean, you do have a certain level of influence and power still at present, even if you don't hold the prime ministership. So you talked about what your party plans to do politically, but what do you want to do for the Pakistani people as they're suffering?
No, you see, we want stability, economic stability. But as I said earlier, in Pakistan, in the peculiar case of Pakistan, economic instability, this economic chaos is caused by political instability. Unless you don't have general elections, unless you don't have an elected government, the economy, no one can fix the economy. So we have to fix our politics first before looking at economy.
Huma, just a minute left, and I just want to get your final thoughts then, because I saw you had a comment. Go ahead.
So my last word on this would be that the coalition partners or the coalition government, it will be political suicide for them if they go into elections right now. And if they were even thinking about it, the results of the Punjab by-elections have deterred them. So they're going to drag their feet as much as they possibly can to push elections further on. Now it is upon PTI to create that pressure so that elections are held. I don't see them holding elections because that is absolute political suicide for them right now. It is like knowing you're going to lose and going into the elections.
Right.
So I don't see them agreeing to it at any cost.
Okay, Huma Baqai, I will have to give you the final word because we are completely out of time for this edition of The Newsmakers. I'd like to thank all three of my panelists so much for joining us. A few of the connections have already dropped. Our viewers, of course, for tuning in as well. Do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey, and we'll see you next time.